Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 2023 car recession. If I have gotten a comment on something, it has been that there is going to be a car recession in 2023, and so we're going to talk about whether or not this is reality in today's video. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below, and if you want to see more content just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post videos every single day. Let's get into it. Now, I recently made a video talking about how the car market collapse has been canceled because the decrease in wholesale values with used cars is slowing down and new cars aren't exactly getting any less expensive. And so we're not really seeing the plummet in car values that we were seeing over the course of most of 2022. And so that kind of leads us into the topic of, well, is this 2023 car recession that everyone's talking about actually going to happen? Are we going to see huge declines in car values over the course of 2023? And I'll first make a case for the 2023 car recession, and then I'll make a case against the 2023 car recession. When it comes to the case supporting the 2023 car recession, there's actually quite a bit backing it. First off, wholesale values on used cars are still declining every single week. Now, they're not declining at the super high rates that they were just a couple of months ago, but I mean, we're still seeing declines of 0.5% to 0.75% per week with most segments, which is significantly more than what you see in a normal car market. And so if that trend just, continues at the rate that it's at right now, then by the end of 2023, yeah, cars will be significantly cheaper than they are today. And so that ultimately would cause a car recession. And on top of that, we are seeing the eroding of retail values with these used cars as well. Dealers were, basically holding tight with those retail values for quite some time, but now they're starting to come down. Now, retail values always lag behind wholesale values because, well, dealers don't want to lose money. And, they have a lot of inventory that they overpaid for. And so it'll take even more time for these retail values to fully correct, even down to the levels that we're at right now with the wholesale values. But with both of those coming down, if they just continue at the rates that they're at, then yeah, like I said, cars will be significantly cheaper by the end of the year. And this also will cause a psychological effect with buyers, because if buyers see car values going down week by week, like they see a car at a dealership and it's just, even if it's a little amount, like if it's priced, $500 less 1 week compared to the other, then they're going to go, oh, something's happening in the car market. I better wait until, the real deals happen. There's a lot of people that are on the sidelines. And so with that demand, pulling back, that would, put further downward pressure on the car market, which ultimately would cause the 2023 recession. The next big support for the car market recession is the super high interest rates that we have and the fact that they aren't going to go down anytime soon. In fact, they're most likely going to go up after the next Federal Reserve meeting, which means that cars are going to become even more affordable, which will push even more buyers out of the market, which will put even more downward pressure on the overall car market. And so, yeah, that's just reality. And although the YouTube comments might suggest that everyone's a cash buyer, that's not reality. The reality is 85% of people finance a car when they purchase it. And this is exactly what I saw when I worked at the dealership. I almost never did cash deals. And most of the time when, I was working with a buyer that was actually a cash purchaser, they would end up financing because of how cheap money was at the time that I was selling cars. But right now money's not cheap. So a lot of the dealers that I talk to happen to, see a lot more cash buyers because they're not converting cash buyers into finance buyers like what was happening with dealers in the past. But anyways, these super high finance rates are pushing a lot of people out of the market. That's going to put downward pressure on prices, which will ultimately put us into the 2023 car recession. Another big thing is that there are several events that are going to happen in the near or, potentially near future. First off, the complete collapse of Carvana and the liquidation of their inventory. I mean, we've talked about this over the course of several videos, but once this happens, there's going to be a lot of cheap used cars that will flood the market. And then the next thing is the whole repo situation, right? Repos continue to increase as time goes on because, people just can't get out of their cars easily right now with super high interest rates and with the value declines that we've seen over the last few months. And so, yeah, more and more repos will start to flood the market, which will put even more downward pressure. And so we're kind of waiting to see, how far this repo event unfolds. But as it continues to unfold, it pushes us more into that, 2023 car recession territory. And then we still haven't seen much with the flood cars from the hurricane. Now, I don't think that this is going to have as much of an effect as what everyone else is talking about because, Well, although there were a lot of cars that were flood damaged, it's going to be one of those things where you're going to have mostly specialty dealerships that basically specialize in selling salvaged cars sell these cars. And so for the majority of the market, like it's not really going to have that much of an effect. It might bring down, salvage title car values because you're going to have a bunch of salvage cars flood the market, but that's pretty much about it on that side of things. And then finally, new cars are just so damn expensive. I mean, the price increases we've seen with most manufacturers have been absolutely ridiculous over the last couple of years. And so a lot of people have been pushed out of the new car market because of this. Now, these people obviously being pushed out of the new car market might go into the used car market. But what I'm hearing from a lot of people and what we're kind of seeing with the data is that they're just not buying a car. They're not going, oh, well, I can't afford the nice new shiny one, so I'm going to buy a used one. They're going, I can't afford the new one, and the used one is still overpriced, so I'm just going to keep driving my car for the next year, the next 2 years, and I'm just going to wait. And so this obviously is going to be putting more downward pressure on both the new and the used car market. Now, when it comes to new car prices, I've said this several times and I still stand by this. I don't see new car prices ever crashing. I see them basically just not increasing at a rapid rate like what we saw for the last couple of years. And so with the prices that we see now right now, new cars, like that's the prices we're going to see with new cars. Now, will we see some rebates and some incentives from manufacturers? Yes. But like if, I happen to have a lot of followers that follow like the truck market. If you're expecting, a fully loaded pickup truck to go from being $80,000 to $50,000 like it was several years ago, like that's a pipe dream. Like that's not going to happen. But, you might see some decent rebates on these trucks, and that $80,000 truck today is probably still going to be $80,000 in a year from today because the manufacturers have pretty much priced themselves to the peak of where they can be when it comes to pricing for vehicles. For the current market, frankly, they're a little bit overpriced, but for the market in the next 6 to 12 to, I would even say 24 months. And so as you can see, there's a lot of different things that are putting tons of pressure on the car market to, well, decline even more and put us into that 2023 recession. However, there are some things, believe it or not, that are kind of putting us in the territory of, hey, that recession with the car market might not actually happen. The first big thing is actually inflation. So obviously everyone knows that inflation has run rampant over the last couple of years. And what this means is that yes, cars are more expensive today than what they were 2 years ago, but people also make more money today than what they made 2 years ago. And so this kind of equates to car values are probably not going to fall nearly as much as what people think they're going to fall to because, well, everything's gotten more expensive. And so that's just the market that we're in today. The next big thing that I mentioned earlier in the video is the fact that wholesale values and retail values are declining at a slower rate compared to earlier in the year, especially wholesale values. Retail values, like I said, they still have some space to drop. But with wholesale values like slowing down in terms of their declines, that, like I said, that means that demand is starting to come from certain areas. And if this continues to increase as the months roll on, then that means that we're not going to see the huge declines that we think we're going to see in the used car market. And like I said, I don't think the new car market's going to decline anyways, but we're not going to see the declines that we think we're going to see. And so that would, completely, quote unquote, cancel the car recession. And then finally, interest rates. Although interest rates are very high and they are surely going to increase in the near future, historically, they're not nearly as high as what people think they are. I mean, there's a lot of you that watch these videos that probably remember a time when, an 8 to 10% interest rate was normal when it came to a mortgage or a car loan or even, a higher interest rate than that. And so the market will eventually accommodate these higher interest rates. Like people will just simply get used to paying these higher interest rates. And so that's another thing that could, cancel this 2023 car recession is the fact that although these interest rates are high, people will eventually just kind of accept that that's reality and they're not going to wait anymore. They're just going to be like, yep, I understand that I have to pay an extra 50 or, $100 per month, but I'm just going to bite the bullet and get a new car now rather than waiting, a year, 2 or 3 years and, hoping that these rates will come down. And then the next big thing is that new cars are still not up to the production levels that they were at prior to the pandemic. For the 2022 year, we're probably going to have like 13-ish million new cars produced. That is a lot less than the 17 million that the US market is typically used to. And so this does frankly put some upward pressure on the overall car market because production is not there. Now, something that does need to be stated is that dealer inventories are increasing across the board, which is great for my main channel because I finally have cars to review. And so I guess that could be, a point within, a cause for the 2023 car recession is the greater availability of cars. But as good as the availability is today, it's still not nearly as good as what it was prior to the pandemic. And so, like I said, upward pressure because of that. Now, in terms of where I personally sit, it's actually somewhere in the middle, and it basically is just right in the split between the new car market and the used car market. I do see us having a quote-unquote recession with the used car market, but it's not going to be like a drop off a cliff type recession. It's going to be just a slow decline over the course of 2023, just kind of like what we saw here in 2022, where cars were, at a certain price range at the beginning of the year, and now they're at a much lower price range at the end of the year. 2023 is going to be more of the same, where cars will be priced at a certain amount in January, and then by December of 2023, they will be significantly less expensive, not because they fell off a cliff one month, but because, those values just were slowly chipped away month after month. I know, not really exciting, but that's just what the data shows. And then with the new car market, again, I don't really see the new car market going into a quote-unquote recession because, again, inventory levels aren't up to what they were at prior to the pandemic, and so inventories still have to build up. And with everything that I'm seeing, it's going to take most manufacturers the entirety of 2023 to get dealers up to the inventory levels they were at prior to the pandemic. Until we get to that area, pricing is not really going to change. Like, again, we will see some incentives, but we're not going to see the pre-pandemic incentives until probably the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, with where manufacturing is at with every single manufacturer. Even the manufacturers that seem to not be struggling to build cars, again, they still have to build a lot more cars before the current demand is met, and then, they can exceed demand and start to really fill up those dealer inventories. But I want you guys to let me know what you think about the, quote unquote 2023 car recession. Do you think that all cars are just going to all of a sudden tank once the new year comes around? Or do you think it's going to be, a slow decline, like what I said, slow decline with used cars, and new cars are really not going to go down in price all that much? Interested to hear what you guys have to say. I'll see you.